Good. Hi guys, thanks for having me. This is actually quite a short talk because I'm more interested in talking about ideas and getting suggestions for this. And this was driven by the need to understand really what InSAR timeseries can tell us about. This is, you all know this, right? InSAR traditionally made, designed to map quite well using InSAR to map ruptures or changes in dimension across 2 different dates. And that's the first interferogram that was created on an earthquake, around an earthquake. But then we started using a linear time series. Tim was one of the first, and we all do it now, to find the rate of movements between point A and point Z. But we normally just plot the linear rates through the whole thing. But we all know that things don't move linearly in time. This is an example from Bandung in Indonesia. And this is a city that's sinking very rapidly. So that's the border, margin borders of the city here. Mostly the fields. And this is the line of sight velocities from, I think, the recent. And the eagle eyes above you will notice that some of these places are sinking at over 160 millimeters per year. So that's 16 centimeters per year of subsidence rates on these places. The average is around 40 to 60. This whole basin is sinking quite rapidly. And that's just the linear velocity of the entire time series. But if I show you just an example of pixels, so that pixel here, you can see that it's slightly variable in time. So the majority of this time period of observation, so this is sentinel, so it's 2015 to when I last finished processing, September 2018. For most of the periods, for this spacing is linear. You can pull a straight line through here, more or less will be accurate. But the whole point of having the time series, you want to try and find times in there that things are doing different. So in this case, what's really interesting is here. What happens here? The subsidence suddenly stopped. And for us, we want to know why that, what to detect, for instance, when that happened automatically, and then think about why. So again, that's what we normally get from the picture on the left, is just this linear straight line for the entire thing, which is also useful, but it's not full, you're not exploiting the time series fully. What we really want to do in my case is come up with a detection system to detect that point there that's different to what happened before. So I have to be careful here. I'm not detecting rates of change. I'm detecting changes from what happened before. So in this case, before this whole thing was moving pretty much linearly, and at this date, something changed happened. It started moving at a different rate.
Which is the sawtooth stuff that we all.
Yeah, this is just the noise in the inside. You all know that. And we see from this point here is a timestamp. Instead of putting it, the sawtoothness is an indication of the noise in the data.
There is a chance that the last
It is possible, true, yeah. So we want to be able to statistically say, again, we want to be able to statistically say that this change is real, number one, and if it is real, to raise a warning, an alert or whatever, and say, look, something's happened here.
But how have you done your time series? Are these temples moving in there?
This is using the gamma picture. So the spatial smoothing, not so much temporal, it's mostly spatial. But again, the whole point is there are many InSAR time series methods now, and you guys all know many of them, stamps, geometry, etc. It's not I'm not going to tell you guys that InSAR, you all know InSAR method. But the whole point is that with this frequent acquisition mode now, with most of the satellites, we really need to start moving away from just sticking straight lines to the entire time series and thinking about what does it mean to have more data, and how can we exploit that in a more efficient and reliable way to really raise warnings. So really want is trigger warnings for these things. So we need to, what I'm trying to do is create a time series change detector, particularly now we can monitor things in real time. here's an example of some guys, something that's been done before. This is Raspini and Peretti, etc. in Italy. And they've come up with a simple idea. And they've said, they've been looking for changes in gradients in the last 150 days of the time series. It's a pretty simple method. They said, okay, look at the gradients in the last 150 days. Is that gradient different to the gradient in the last, since the beginning of time series? And if it is, then raise an alert, and that's a change. It's not near real time now. So this is not so. On my title slide, that I had said online time series detector compared to offline, and I'll explain the difference between the two. So this is really real time. It's yeah, there's still obviously a 150-day delay, and there are other problems with it, mainly because it relies on this period, this black line, to be linear again. So it says, is the gradient on that line different to the gradient on that line? That's all it says. And we know that the black line may not be linear. There may be other changes within that period.
Was this paper purely based on that?
Yeah, this is the paper, it's in the scientific reports. So many people have views on that. But they claimed on the citations in Nature. But that's the gist of the paper. And so this is again, it's just a measurement to changing gradients. However, if I think of a case where it was doing nothing, then moved up and did nothing, this method would find it difficult to detect those changes. So static changes. So we thought, okay, we could probably do better than that. And so we started with what are the types of changes we're trying to detect. And I've broken it down to 3 types of possible changes that could occur in a time series. So I'm interested in trying to detect. The first one is this, a changing gradient. This happens to a real example, where in this case, the gradients from here to here, in this area zone, there's a change in the overall slip rate, or the rate of gradient acceleration. And we want to be able to detect that. The other case is, in this case, where it says just a static offset, where the ground's doing nothing, then something happens, it drops up, then it does nothing. Or the third case is where, probably a more realistic case, where the ground's, there's a slight gradient, there's a constant gradient, and it does something, and moves on to a slightly different gradient. So those are 3 kinds of anomalies I'm really trying to detect. And if you don't believe me, this is a real example of not a time series in Italy, this is a creep meter from North Anatolian fault in Turkey. And but it quite nicely highlights all 3 types of changes in here. Yeah, into this too. So if you don't know what a creep meter does, it's essentially a giant wire across a fault. And in this case, it's measuring episodic, measuring movements across the fault. And if you notice in this case here, before September 2014, it was doing nothing. And then suddenly there was a change in gradient. It started, the displacement started increasing up to nearly constant gradient. Then it changed the gradient again. So there's 2 changing gradients here, as well as this giant static offset. And those all, and if this was a time series, the question is, could we detect this, and this automatically? And that's what we're trying to do in this. And this is just creep. Think of something else in like a volcano as well, where it's not doing anything, then it starts inflating, and you want to be able to detect that moment of inflation.
These are, if I said it was slightly different, this is something's happening, you get a static change, then you get a decay. So you also have a sense of direction on time, which might help as well. Because after every step, it doesn't just change gradient, it's actually decay form each time.
Yeah.
So like a very seismic
decay.
Yeah.
So again, I'll probably come to that next slide. The point of the algorithm is it's, maybe I'll explain the next slide. So the whole question of offline versus online algorithms. So this is something called computer science, where I'll just give you a definition. An offline algorithm is something that arguably the easier case, where you give the whole time series and you tell it to find where the changes are in that time series. And that's arguably a much easier problem to solve. But what I'm really interested in is this online algorithm where each new data point that gets added to the time series only considers the points before it to test if this new point is a change. So in terms of real-time detections, that's what we really want to know. Any new additional points into the time series, you test, is that point now a change, a detection, or is it just normal as before? Again, this is just an example. Again, a random time series. And if I were to say, the whole point now is, this is ignore everything from here. This is a new point that gets added to time series. Is this point a change? That's the calculation we do. And the only data it has to make that assertion is the one before it. So this change could have been up there. It could have been a real data points. That's the difference between online versus offline algorithm. And we really want to have online for this continuous updating time series methods. Again, so this is, I'm not going to show you any funky equations because it's basically boring statistics. But this is really what it does. So this is my point I want to test. And what I'm going to do is test it with n number of previous points. N because, so I could test it against the whole data set. But there's a reason I don't. That's the next slide. So I pick n, in this case I pick 4. So test statistically, is that point significantly different to this point? Using a student's t-test. Student's t-test because it's a statistic because you can't do a normal distribution because there's only 4 data points and student t-tests are optimized for sample distributions that you don't know the standard deviation, the population standard deviation. And one of the quirks of this method is you assume the same sigma for both data sets. So essentially you say, what's the likelihood that X is drawn from the t distribution defined by these points? And that's a test we do. And if it is a change, we raise at the 97.5% level, we raise an initial alert, not alert as in like alert, but in an internal alert, okay, saying that this is a potential change. But the way I test it is, again, okay, how this could be a noise point. So it could be a noise, particularly noise pixel, and they say, okay, and it would pick up that pixel. But the way you test it again is say, okay, wait until the next data point arrives, which is could be this one, and say, test both of these against that distribution. And until the next point arrives, then test all 3 of these against these. And then, so I've tested it 3 times, just test it as many times as you want.
Your sigma is computed just based on what you keep like a memory of sigma for a long
I'll keep a memory of sigma for this points.
but only for those 4.
These 4.
So if those are particularly noisy, then could be problematic.
Yeah, yeah.
But also, if the new points are particularly large noise component, sure. If the 4 points you're using are not noisy, and the new point is very noisy.
Yeah. So, the only reason I keep sigma constant is just for ease of use now. So another, maybe too much detail. I use a slightly different variation of a method of calculating the statistic, which does let you use different sigma. But at the moment, I just keep it constant because calculating sigma over 1 point or 2 points doesn't really mean much. But we could. The method does allow for different sigmas and across different. But at the moment, I just keep it the same. So this for me then gives you, so this could raise an initial alert, but by the time we've confirmed it with the next 3 points, we know that this particular offset is with a high likelihood real.
So when you do the student t-test, you have to declare a number of degrees of freedom. So if you've got near sigma, you're down to only 2 degrees of freedom, which actually makes the test quite hard to pass a 3 sigma. Well, it would be very difficult. Yeah. Why do you only use them at 4 and degrees of freedom 2 then?
That's a good question. At the moment, I'm very conservative in these detections because the noise is so high. So actually, it's a good thing that it's hard to pass because a lot of these, you'll notice in the InSAR timeseries, they're very noisy. So a lot of these points get picked out. So it's actually really good to be able to observe them. Although I double check all this again with another test, which is a trick from, oh, by the way, before I get to that, the reason why I use M and not the full list is because of the case where there's a gradient on both sides.
But instead of using the mean, you could try to estimate a line through M, then you could maybe use more points, use the difference, and line is proxy for you, something like that.
Yeah, which is what I do when it comes to the gradients testing.
But you could use that for step as well, because that gives like the offset between your line and your points, like the average of that is the proxy for your points.
That's also true. That's the method that potentially I just thought of that. But yes, that's a good suggestion.
And
Because then you
get the offset.
The main limitation is that you only use 4 points.
Yeah.
Not 4 points. And then indeed, if you have a gradient,
Then the mean
bias
is the bias, yeah.
because there's also, you underestimate sigma for low samples. More, you add another point in, your sigma will always increase.
Yeah.
Up to, so it always goes too low.
Yeah, that's true. And the only, that's also very true. So the degree of freedom problem is probably the biggest problem in this case. But yes, a line would be easier. But a line for the one, that's probably easier.
You can't, like, you're always, because you're looking at viewpoints only, like that degree of freedom is always going to be low. You can't have it. You can probably do better times before that. You have a lot of information.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Yeah, so that's the reason why. But yes, a line would probably be good. But then to double check it all. So
Sorry, you don't even have to. You have to use just a straight line. You can filter it, smooth it in space, and then you basically get any shape you want.
in space,
Sorry,
In
smooth it in time.
in time, yeah.
So a bit like what staff does, for example, and then you can have whatever that, even if it's exponential, you still essentially get that.
Yeah.
Then you're not stuck to your.
Mm-hmm.
You still need to use the original sigma though, not the new smooth sigma.
Yes, of course. Yeah. So the smooth signal is just to estimate your noise level.
Yeah.
Essentially.
So that will offset itself.
Well,
I'm not looking at offset. I'm just working if there is an offset. I don't really care about how much thought there is. Just is it statistically different? But the next bit, so that's like I said. I raise initial alert if it's detected once, and if that detection remains constant for 3 time steps, I give it a high confidence that that's a real step change. But then I double check it all using a method trick from stock traders. Economics, they used to call the first difference calculation when they measure how stock changes. It's a really quite simple thing where they just get every point and just take the difference from the last point. All that does, it just removes all the trends really, and it's quite nice. And then so ignore the results for now. And then so this is the first difference profile for that. And you can see where the step happens, you get a nice peak. Okay. So now I run another detection algorithm. Again, similar statistics. Okay, are each one of these points significantly different from what's previously? In this case, same kind of technique as before. But what's really cool is I want to be able to pick up that. And then the final accepted raised alerts I have is the combination of the two. And say, okay, in this case, this is the time series. These are the 3 detections I come up with just using the step change algorithm. Again, at this point, it thinks it's different significantly from these 4, for example, obviously that one and that one. And then I do the same again with the first difference, and I make the same detections. I say, okay, the step change, the first difference thinks these 4 are real. But then I say, okay, the true step occurs when at the points where it detects it, but in both cases. So in this case, the true step is actually the case where this one and this one, and these are false positives essentially. And then you're left with that. So that's really the point where we have the true step change. Okay, so that's the case where for static change, and this works for the case where you have flat, set flat, and then gradient, set gradient. Although, like I said, line is probably better on the gradient case. The next is when there's a change in gradient. So in this case, it's harder to find because the change could happen slowly. In this case, you can't find step changes. You have to think about windows. And so it's a similar kind of problem, but instead of looking at point by point, you look at windows by windows. And in the last paper they used 50 days, you can set windows on the way on thing up to that. In this case, I've used, I think, 80 days windows. The windows are in days. And what it does is, okay, it says, is the gradient in this window, is the gradient in this window statistically different to the gradient in that window? The similar kind of student t-test. And you just run through that window by window, just move it along X step size. I think in this case it's 30 days or whatever. And you just move it along and says, is the gradient statistically different in that window compared to that window?
What about season?
It would pick up those. It would pick up those. Because it doesn't. So initially when I was playing with these methods, I could pick up similar changes using Bayesian methods. But the only reason I came to this statistical test is Bayesian methods took too long. I'm trying to run this at 500,000 pixels over 80 time steps. It takes a lot of time to start running through all that. The only reason I discarded the machine learning problems is it's quicker to run it this way. But yeah, seasonal problems will get picked up. And that's a worry that we have to think about now.
I guess yeah, you can come up with a
Parametric.
well, I'd even try to remove seasonal things
Yeah.
before, so the more digesting, or you can flag up somehow weight pixels that are more sensitive.
Yeah.
Or your window size is also your problem context specific.
Yeah,
If it's season window, you make your window more than 180 days.
Yeah, exactly. Might be all right. Yeah. So another thing I was thinking of is, but the biggest problem for me is computational efficiency. Many of these problems are very easy to solve statistically and numerically, but you want to be able to do it very efficiently in code, because you think we're trying to run these in hundreds of thousands of pixels over tens of days. So yeah, so you could think about a method where you vary the window sizes and then come up with a Monte Carlo method to find all changes in gradients, but then that's a very computationally expensive thing to do.
You'd also get more robustness depending on what you thought the nature problem was by looking at the spatial correlation between nature and pixels.
That's something we'll come on to later. So this is, so this is just a pixel, gradient to changes in gradients. And this is just an example. This is a real example, the one I showed earlier, I think. And these are the detections that detect automatically. There's two red blue bands. Again, so in this case, you don't know exactly when the change happened, you just know that it happened within this window, that there's a change in gradient statistically. And this is probably a false positive, but we'll talk about how to remove false positives in a minute. So at the end, you combine both detections together. So the step change gradient, the step change detector, and the gradient change detector, and you have the list that looks like this at the end for each time series. And black points are the ones I call unconfirmed because they didn't pass the test of it being consistent with the 3 consecutive points, but still record them just in case. Especially because if it's a new detection at the end, it will always be unconfirmed until the next 3 steps are available. And yeah, and the blue ones are where it passes the test of 3 consecutive points. So in this case, it's found 3 changes in gradients and 2 step changes. And almost certainly, most of these are false positives. The real change is probably this thing that's only of relevance to us. All these are false positives. So we really want to get rid of or minimize the false positive rates in there. And we could do that by exploiting the spatial distribution. Like I said, like John mentioned, up till now, we've only looked at each pixel independently in its time component. We haven't thought about pixels, how they relate to each other in space. And most deformation signals have a spatial In this case, it's full resolution and how many pixels are you suppose? But in my case, all the pixels are full resolution, so it's 20 meters boxes. And most signals in this are larger than 20 meters. In this case, for example, this in there is probably like 30, 40 pixels in that red ball. So the idea is, if you detect a change at X date on this pixel, that change should also be present in all the pixels surrounding it, vertically. And you can make, so, and that's the assumption you make. We have to be careful about the lengths and wavelengths of these things. But here's a good example. It's the easiest way to show it. Again, this is 300 pixels. I think that's one I showed earlier. And these are 3 neighboring pixels to it. And you can see these 2 changes get detected automatically, but this one is wavy. So you can just say that you can say that this change, these 2 changes in it, have a high likelihood of being real than these 2 changes.
The problem there, of course, that a lot of your error sources are also spatially
Happens
coordinated.
for accident, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
And it depends what you're looking for. If you want to know if the basin is consistent subsiding, but if you want to know whether one building is differentially
Yeah.
subsiding,
Yeah,
that's
so
what we want.
this is the point as well. So this is why we have to define the spatial elements. If you're looking about pixel by pixel facing, we can't do the spatial test. Because one pixel is essentially a building. If you want to know if a building is subsiding or doing something different around it, then you can't do the spatial test. If you can look at, say, the Franco volcanoes subsiding obviously, you can assume safely that most of the pixels on that volcano will behave in a similar way. That's the kind of, you have to have some sort of manual insight into that. So I've done it with inverse distance weighting. It's a very basic, and it works very well, but it's hugely computationally expensive. Calculating the inverse distance matrix. So essentially, the distance from one pixel to every other pixel. And then the next pixel to every other pixel. It's a huge, huge matrix. And you shouldn't. It's not advisable to do that. Even if you crop it out to read and say 10 kilometers or 500 meters around it. But then you have to do it every time in the box, and that's not something. Yeah.
You could just use like a nearest neighbor tree.
Yeah.
Tree, nearest neighbors.
Yeah, so that's what we're playing with at the moment. So we have geostatistics. The other guys in the course of them, they said geospatial statisticians. And they know more about this than I do. So they think of clever tricks to use geostatistics. The biggest problem for this is, as you all know, InSAR data is sparse. So in any kind of window, most of it is nano. And then you have pixels that are data. And that's turned out to be one of the big problems with this whole geospatial problem.
What are you using? What are you coding?
It's all in Python.
Because SK Learn has a thing.
Yeah. So that's something I'm testing now. So this particular part of it is all work in progress. I'm working with geostatistics to work on it, but
For a lot of the other stuff, you're doing something like non-biologists.
yeah.
Well, eventually use GPUs.
Yeah. Well, most of this is parallel. It's multi-core. I'm not sure it's multi-threading. It's multi-core at least. But it's I'm still new to Python, but Python's a powerful language. So I've told you it's worth the version. Yeah, it's quite powerful. You start working with the NumPy pandas libraries. Very useful to learn with. And yeah, so the next stage is to so I've written this in several modules. So that's another method. I'm not sure if I did this in MATLAB. I was coding MATLAB. In Python, it's easier to write in modules. And so I've written a alert module as well now. So we have to decide now at what points do we send an email to whoever it may be. Which one of those points do we say is an email worthy point? And that's a human thing. We have to make a choice. Okay, if it's confirmed 3 times and then confirmed by the first difference as well, then that's a true one, and that raises an alert. Or if it's going to be high false positive rates, we want a really early warning, you do that one of the first unconfirmed alerts. So that's a choice we haven't made yet. We have to think about it. Maybe it depends on context.
It's a choice, and I'd rather get 50 emails where nothing happens.
Yeah.
Or 500 emails where nothing happens, and the one where it happens,
Yeah.
you get it.
That's a choice we're going to have to
Take the
make.
risk of missing that one.
And the whole point, and the problem because of the false positives, is because we're using an online algorithm. If we had the whole data set on either side of any changes, and the false positive rates drop quite dramatically. But because we want to do it, well, as data gets acquired on an online way, the false positive rates tend to be higher.
And all the processing in near real time as well.
It's essentially gamma. It's so the way I've written it is that I don't download data every 6 days because it's just I just can't deal with it. So every month it downloads all the data for that month and then adds it to the time series.
So do you get one? Do you get an email for every alert, or do you get one email for everything first?
We haven't decided yet. I've written it so they can do either. I haven't decided what's the best alert system. They may have to be context specific. I mean, for example, this is something I stole from LinkedIn. Copyright material, don't take it. This is I stole from LinkedIn, CGG. These guys are looking at this down in Australia, and this is the time series. And I haven't done it yet, but I would be able to pick that up quite easily. Most algorithms would pick it up quite easily. But I think the key thing is, mine would pick it up around that point, which gives it, I don't know how many days that is. December to February, 2 months morning, before this dam collapsed.
I don't think you can do much better.
Yeah. So,
Even like I would have said, if I wouldn't have had the last 3 points
yeah.
by I wouldn't necessarily have,
No.
I wouldn't have been sure. And that's
No. Yeah. So that's really one. Well, this is really commercial fixed course. We want to start triggering alerts. So the rest be careful with that is we don't want to oversell this. It's not going to solve all problems. It's usually a case where something's happening, don't have a look, kind of one. Let's be careful.
But here, if you told someone in January, mid-January, to go and put a GPS on there, they would detect very quickly.
Yeah.
After a few days.
Exactly. Yeah. And in this case, it's actually easier because the whole spatial problem becomes easier because you're very looking at this point. So one of the things I want to ask you guys is the whole spatial characteristics speedy weighting problem. Maybe if we just say we're interested in this area is doing something, then we just look at the spatial pattern in that area. Rather look at the entire scene and saying what's happening with the entire scene.
Right.
That's probably not as useful.
It's not that we're moving on for long.
Yeah. 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 The detections in space.
Yeah, but it also would make the gradient in your thing.
Yeah. So that's the ultimate aim. I mean, this is you can imagine the same thing happening on a volcano or creepyters or whatever. It doesn't matter. The change is a change. It can happen wherever you want. But so moving forward, and I think that's it.
The GPS can help because you have observations nearby.
Well, I mean, like I said, the algorithm is independent of what the source of data is, whatever. It's just a statistical algorithm. So, which is the benefit, I think, because it doesn't matter where the data is from, really.
So you're not building solely to work on Sentinel-1.
No, it can be anything. Yeah. In fact, actually, we're thinking about anything that has a time series component really is what matters. What?
I think about the computation efficiency there, how it's quite handy. You've got your time series, which is like a certain number of pixels, a certain number of time. There should be ways, I would have thought, to code that very, very efficiently, so that because most of the information is abundant. And I think things like using PCA, where I see it would be really good at giving spatial maps and time courses.
Yeah.
And you could maybe, in like 10 of the information, like this is space, and this could maybe correspond to maybe 99% of the variance in the data.
Yeah.
Maybe that be
Yeah. So that's the next step. Think about using those methods. Another way is trying to think about. I'm thinking there could be a way of making this a supervised learning problem as well. Where you say, okay, these are what detections look like. Tell me if there's one like this. So that's something I'm thinking about. But maybe say it's probably easier.
So if you have the crystal root,
No, I didn't. Yeah, I haven't read it yet. No.
that's really, if you think about making the same like that.
It's a big problem. It's not huge, like the amount of points. I think your work, like, even if you're not getting the performance right now when you're prototyping this, it doesn't mean you can't get performance. When you're actually optimizing.
And I suspect, I mean, because I'm working on just on radar scene, and most of it's boring, not doing anything. But I suspect really, when we think about monitoring, the initial idea was monitoring infrastructure, monitoring like dams, bridges, or volcanoes, or something like that. These are specific targets, and so the computation problem becomes a lot easier because you're looking at smaller areas. And also, this takes a long time because you process the entire stack. But when you add a new data point, it's only just one calculation you do, so it's actually much quicker. It's the beauty of online algorithms that each new point is really independent on what comes up. Any questions? Any suggestions, more importantly? Apart from the really good ones.
Have you looked into just the GPS? There's a lot of sort of, maybe not a lot, but a few change detection algorithms that people are using on highway GPS.
No, I haven't. Maybe you can send some.
Yeah, there's one.
Yeah, we're good if you send some. So most of this kind of change detection stuff I got from signal processing literature, voltage changes and things like that, in electrical engineering and stock trading. They're very big on changes in time series apparently.
Get those PDFs.
It's textbooks on like electrical engineering.
Yeah, the Cascadia and the slow slip events are probably the GPS, probably the ones where people have to tackle the same problem and they put on it.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't come across those. Yeah. It's a fun problem to work on. And I learned Python in the process, and I love it. It's great.
I remember you were doing the test, you were just doing some tutorials for people.
Yeah.
A year ago or something.
Yeah. I basically started Python probably. Yeah. It's way better than right? Okay. That's fine.
You're really comfortable in London.
No, it's
It's
not.
not
It's
that
not.
different.
No.
There's a lot of.
It works.
No, it's not.
There you go.
There's a-
Excellent. Okay, point to work.
Library.
So if you know the function of MATLAB, it's easy to look up the function.
And R. You do statistics, people love R, and I hate it.
Powerful,
Yeah.